Well, welcome to Noel's World of Whiskey. And I was going to say tonight out of a reflex, but it's not tonight, it's this morning. And I'm dressed appropriately because we're getting into the Scottish weather here on Vancouver Island. So we've had a lot of clear weather, a lot of cool clear weather, and today is raining, so it's a great day to actually do a review. The review you've been promised that you're still, I still haven't got into is, of course, was supposed to be on the one of the World Whiskey Award winners, and this was the red wine barrique, long name, Washington Peat, sugar kelp infused whiskies. And of course, we know Macaloney was the first to get into that sugar kelp infused. He playing around with he was playing around with Isla Peat. He's been playing around with Washington Peat. He plays around a lot with wine finishing, and of course now sugar kelp infused from the native community. So interesting stuff. Now this was from Elle, and I was supposed to do a review on it because I had previously done the review on this guy, which is another winner, the Canadian Whiskey of the Year award. This particular bottle, it's going to look like this bottle, but I did get a chance to taste that. Couldn't find a bottle right away, but they had just come out with the Cask Strength version, which wasn't around during the time of the presentation. So having tasted the one that won the Canadian Whiskey of the Year, and after doing a review of this, I would say this would trump the one that won the award. In other words, if this had been there, this would have trumped it. That's my palate, my opinion. Anyways, I guess what I'm saying to you is this whiskey is definitely worth paying attention to. Maybe you should go out and buy a bottle. But we were supposed to review this guy. So what happened? Well, we can purchase the bourbon version of this. That's the one finished in the red wine. Yeah, they've got that one out now. But guess what we've got here? Now remember, there were none of these in the country evidently, but that's what they say. But when you, and I did do an intensive search right through BC here, and who knows, is there one in Alberta, whatever. But Macaloney didn't have any. I'm down, usually when I go to Victoria, I stay with my daughter down there, and there is a liquor store I frequent, and I go in there, and I just kind of, every once in a while I find something hidden, This was at the very back, just like that 21-year-old Glenfarclas I was looking for, hidden, way at the back, behind a bunch of stuff, on a shelf. So I got lucky. Here it is. This is that whiskey that we were going to review. Fresh bottle, hasn't been opened, so we will be eventually opening this. But I'm not going to open it right now because I want to talk to you about what I had discovered after I did the review on the Cask Strength Moscatel finished Washington Peat. That was my last review. My palate was discovering different notes after I did that review. I wanted to figure out, why is my palate changing? What's going on here? Every night testing different whiskeys. I started on Isla, and I have sufficient number of whiskeys that I could go through, sip. I'm not drinking, I'm sipping. If I had, let's say, 6 to 8 whiskeys I was doing per night, if I was drinking a dram on each one of those whiskeys, I never would have made it to work the next day. I sip. And what I found was some interesting things, and I want to share them with you. So I'm going to get right into it here. I'm going to start right off with Ardbeg. So the 10, it's universal. Everybody, most of you have tried the 10. Love the stuff. Reasonably priced, 46, non-chill filter, all the rest of that jazz. Good whiskey. Ugadale, a standard. And of course the Corey Vrecken, the heavy hitter. just like the whirlpool. So this is kind of almost like it's always been. I do seem to think that it's backed off a bit on the peat, but still, I'm going to say it has a little more kick than the Moscatel finished Macaloney's. Ugadale, much closer the kick to the, now two different types of peat, but when I say kick, I'm just saying the impact of the peat, balancing out the peat with the cask finishing, in this case sherry, in that case Moscatel. Corey Bracken, you can't compare it. This would kick it out of the park in terms of intensity of peat. And this isn't criticizing whiskey, by the way. This is talking about the intensity of peat. So, Corey Bracken. Remember that name, Corey Bracken. It's not for all of you. I guarantee you, some of you will not like it. It gives you a smack, but I like it. I better get to Lagavulin here, because that's where it all starts. Distiller's edition is really this whiskey here, with finishing, I believe, is it Oloroso and Pedro Menes? I'm pretty sure it's one or the other or both, okay? And of course, this guy here, the 12, I've had various 12s, and they are cask finish. So here's the 8. Okay, there's the 8. Okay, so the 8 is kind of like the 10 in the Ardbeg. It's a 48er. So, there's a little bit more smack there, a little bit more smack than, let's say, the 16. More peat, I find, a little more peat. Now, this guy's going to trump both of them, okay? Obviously, it's cask strength and it's smoky. So, but going back to these over time, over the month, what did I notice? Well, the cask strength one, it still has a good hit. It's got a good hit of peat, and it hasn't changed as much as this guy has drastically changed. This, I'm not tasting the peat as an intense peat. It's really a mellow peat. It's a background peat, even more background than the Macaloney's. So that's my palate, okay? The 8 is somewhere in between. Okay, let's keep going here. Let's get ourselves over to the Lefroy. Remember, the 10 was a 43. This is a 46, the quarter cask. And this is the cask strength 10. So this is the first 10 I had was not cask strength. This is the cask strength 10 here. Now let's pull the lore out here. And the lore is going to be closer to Macaloney's, but much pricier. And it's a 48er. So we know I would say the Ugadale is probably closer in terms of ABV. And price, where this is way up there in price. So love the stuff, just getting pricey. When we're looking at the quarter cask, you know the story, quarter cask, you're going to get faster finishing and all that stuff. I do think it's a little more intense than the 43. I like it more than the 43%. That's the original 10. This stuff is pretty amazing. It's going to trump all of them, the cask strength one. So good. Not so dirty as the 43 10, and yet certainly the quarter cask is a little more dirty whiskey than the lore. So that word "dirty" is not a bad thing, by the way. It's just a taste I get from the ash and whatever kind of a. This is the Bowmore. Bowmore 18. I did the sherry cask review not that long ago. I did. It did well. People seemed to be interested in it. I didn't give it as good a mark. Maybe I should have. I don't know. After a while, I started thinking it might be a little bit better than it used to. The thing, I got the 18 sherry cask, a little more expensive than this stuff. This is an old standard. I've always liked this stuff, but it's lightly peated. Same with the sherry cask, not overly peated either. So, but just really nice balance. Bowmore is not noted for heavy peat until you get into the Vault series and all that, which I've had both the Vault 1, Vault 2 editions there. I'm showing you everything I tested before, and at the end of each sipping, I would have a sip of this stuff. By the way, I did that every night. So as we're moving ahead, I'm just going to mention, as we head north to another island, the Orkneys, and I have about a half a dozen of these kicking around. I do have the 18, by the way. It's getting down there in the regular which was priced a little bit better. This is the 80 Rattray 18. I don't know, it's a toss-up between the two of them. One is a little richer in the sherry, this is richer in the bourbon. Don't knock bourbon, this is good stuff. So that's the 1880 Rattray Highland Park. This is the Twisted Tattoo. It's a really good value for your money. I have a few bottles of those, by the way, because of the price. Good stuff. Peated, but not as heavily today when I taste it. And as I was moving through these toward the end, this became even less peated. This guy here, of course, the 15, it seemed to have a little more kick in the beginning, but a lot less. And the original bottle was clear, by the way. And that one there, I prefer this to the original clear one there. But the peat, heathery taste to it. We know Orkney peat has a lot more heather in it, and we understand peat. Remember, peat is really decayed brush and grass and da-da-da. So if you've got a little bit more of the grassy notes, leaves, whatever, flowers, decaying versus a lot more wood as you do in the brush in Islay, your peat is going to be different, and I find Islay peat's more intense, that's all. This Washington peat, I'm learning something about it. It is a bit ashy, but it's definitely closer to the heathery peat you get in the Orkney. So let's go over and take a peek at the mainland here of Scotland. So if we look at the mainland, I've got to just pull this guy out. Here is this is Ben Romig, and we did stop at this. A lot of these distilleries, but I mentioned, we stopped at these distilleries and we checked. We did get a chance to visit them. So this one here, on our way out through the Space side, this whiskey has always kind of been something I've been fond of, and it reminds me, it's the closest thing to Springbank. Now this is going to be 46-ish, and this one's Cask Strength, and this one's Cask Strength, but this is 43. Still, for a 43, you're not going to see bad reviews on this. Oh, I better first show you the Kilkerran, Glengall Distillery. So when we were visiting Springbank, we have to mention value for your money. This is a peated expression, not smacking you in the face like an Islay peat. The type of peat, it's not quite as, so maybe a little bit less brush in their peat, the peat that they're using in this here, because it's just a cleaner taste, the peat and all that. So you do get a wee bit of that beech stuff in this here, but not the medicinal stuff that you're going to get in a Lagavulin or Ardbeg. Let's get into Benriach. So Benriach, and I'm not bringing out the 16 because it's just way too lightly peated, the 16. I don't even know what the ppm is on it, but anyways, this guy here is Curiosista. Second bottle. It always seemed to be fairly peated when I first started to drink it. When I finished this month of, and I tasted this numerous times, there it seems a bit on the lighter side with the PS bourbon and rum finish, and I thought it was sherry. So rum can disguise itself. So, but it's a good whiskey. A little more peat than the Smoky 12. Now, that's going to bring us to peat, ppm. ppm can be confusing. And I really believe that ppm is a scientific presentation of what these distilleries are doing, influencing the actual particles in the malt, the grain. But like Ralphie says when he was doing his review on Octomore, it is not the most peated expression. That's what Ralphie said. But, scientifically it might be. But when I pull it out, you can read it right here. It says Octomore, and I've got several bottles of this here. I don't know if this is the most, I think I got one that's 150 or 140, I forget. This is 130, 135 or 130-ish. So I don't find this as peated as Corey reckoned. I don't ever see a reference to 130 ppm on any of the Ardbegs there. I mean, they talk 55, maybe as high as 60. I don't know. I've never seen any higher than that. Why is it more intense and peat than this here? This is a fantastic whiskey. If I poured you a dram of this, you'll like it. Now, I don't have their 300. They went as high as 300 ppm, so I've never tried that. So maybe that one does have a smack. I'd rather drink this stuff here. So this again is, I thought was fairly heavily peated, but today how I look at it is it's a Cask Strength presentation here. I think it's cask or it's close to it. It's in the 50s. This is a very, it just seems more background peat, stronger front end with the finishing. I believe this is Burgundy. Yeah, it's 56.1%. There you are. So it is a good whiskey, but more background peat. Still, there's peat here. Let's look at the mainland again. That is Isla. Bounce back and forth. There you are. We're at Tomatin Distillery, which we also stopped in and visited. So this here is the Cabocan, and it is a Shoshu cask finish, one of my favorites of the Cabocans, and it does have a light peat finish. Never super strong, but always there. And I will not say that it's here with peat. It's much lighter, but it's the same concept. You're playing around with casks. Like Macaloney does a lot like Tomatin. It's constantly playing with different cask influences and that. Lecheg. So Lecheg, Tobermory Distillery, Isle of Mull. So there it is. This is the old favorite, the 10-year-old. Always like this stuff. Killer price, by the way. Where can you produce a good, well-balanced 10-year-old peated whiskey for that price? I mean, this is one of the best priced. Check it out. Lecheg can. Anyways, this is the best value. And did it change in terms of, I think toward the end of the month there, I was getting a little less of the peat influence there, so it did, and certainly this one here, I really noticed the 18. And then, let's not forget about Talisker. So Talisker, I got the 18, this is the old standard, the 10, and it's the standard. This is what their distillery, their whole process is based on the 10 there, and so it's got that nice balance of peat and all that stuff. But again, as I got to the end of that month there, probably again the peat's more background, and we're seeing more of that cask finishing in the front end there. So, but there's a lot, there's a lot of whiskeys I can show you. I could keep going at this, but really where I'm going with this is you spend a month and you're playing around with maybe more intense whiskeys, and I tried to work from the less intense, and I worked my way up a ladder of whiskeys. And I'm not showing all the whiskeys that because I'm not going to waste any more time showing you all the different bottles that I did there. But what I was trying to understand was the different peat from different parts of Scotland. Now let's compare them with this peat here, Washington Peat. And I don't need to bring on a Macaloney that's Isla Peat. I'm more concerned about this Washington Peat. What is Washington Peat? How does it influence this whiskey? When I first the first review on this here, I was getting a lot more peat. And if I was to pour a dram right now, I'm going to get less peat. But I'm going to get a lot more Moscatel influence. So this little experiment I did, and it's the first time probably I've done anything like this. I mean, years ago I did drink a lot more peated whiskey, a lot less today. So it allowed me to get back and rediscover peat, and I really started to enjoy the peat. Washington Peat, I'm going to appreciate it a lot more once I clean my palate for at least a few days and get a little more of that Washington Peat. And I think that's something that maybe all of you might want to make a comment on, because maybe you've gone through the same thing. Am I unique? Is my palate unique? And I don't think so. I think that a lot of you probably have noticed that as well, that as you get into the more powerful peat, maybe you get into indulging, like some people I know, where they're focusing on how it's not peated enough, and they're looking for heavier and heavier peat. What's happening is, I think we build a tolerance as that peat gets more intense. We build a tolerance, and so we are not going to notice the peat on the Lagavulin 16s that we did when we first discovered them. Even some of the more recent whiskies that we thought were quite peated, we're not going to notice it as much because we keep raising our level of tolerance to peat. So that is my presentation. Please make some comments. Tell me what you think. I'm just curious of your feedback if you have experienced the same. And on that note, I'm going to ask you to drink wisely, drink intelligently, and do not drink and drive until the next time. So long, Chiba.